Hello and welcome back to the College Rugby Show. I'm your host, Pat Clifton, joined as always by Zach Lanning and Darian Lovelace. This is our first show of 2025. The fall season is upon us. The leaves are starting to change. The air's crisping up a little bit. Zach is wearing more clothes, thank God. Guys, college rugby season's on us. It's already here. Zach, what are the first things that you're excited about, other than the pumpkin spice lattes, to sink your teeth into this college rugby season?
Anything pumpkin, Pat. The lattes, the bread, anything. I love my PSLs, and also, actually, I have to stop if you're going to tell me I need to be wearing more clothes going forward. But I'm really excited for the feeling you get when it's preseason. Like, I feel like, we are kind of ramping up with our show here, and we're not out on the pitch anymore, but this kind of is a preseason to me. And I love that feeling of a new season, a fresh, textbook, a fresh, you ever get the Trapper Keeper when you were in middle school? That was my jam.
Oh, yeah.
The new school
the
year
Lisa Frank
out.
folders, all of it for sure.
All of it. Yeah. The first day of school outfit. That was the best thing in the fall. So that's what I'm excited for.
What a bunch of cool nerds. That's so cool. I love that for us. We're all nerds here. Talking about textbooks.
Darian, you got your new college rugby season shoes picked out for the new season, the new school year?
Yeah, well, I definitely have some fits planned. I'm excited for those. I mean, fall is the best time because you can wear as many clothes as you want and still doesn't feel like enough. But there is something, like you said, Zach, that's just very different. It's like a fall vibe that we're on, the pumpkin spice lattes. I'm excited to see how many you chug versus the amount of monsters that you drank at the CRCs, So
those might be less healthy for me, I think, than the monsters. I'm not sure how much pumpkin one person could take, but
well, that's there's also some rugby happening this fall as well on top of the PSLs. College rugby, guys, another huge year, and it seems like growth and change year after year. One of the biggest storylines, one of the things I know I'm excited about, is Women's Division I. We have a brand new division, Darian. Now 4 men's divisions, 4 women's divisions. We've had that in 7s. It's been a work in progress to get that in 15s, but that's one of the biggest changes this season. And I know I'm pumped to see how this new wide open field kind of plays out. How about you? What are you excited for inside the lines this season?
I'm just excited for people to be able to have this experience, right? I was able to have this through the College Rugby Championships. Life was a big part of this competition, and we have so many women's teams that are really trying to get the support, and people are investing. So being able to build that investment, build a fan base, there's just a lot of potential that I think we're seeing in real action. So I'm excited for that storyline to kind of unfold and to have people have the same experiences that I did, because these experiences that I did through organizations like this, I mean, they lasted me a lifetime. So I'm excited to see everybody's stories and how it plays out. That's for sure.
How about Zach? What about you? What are you keeping your eye on as we barrel into autumn here?
Like Darian said, you're hearing more of these stories. I go on social media and I see a lot more teams participating in these kinds of things and telling their own stories. And I think I'm excited that we're here, to help do that. And this is a new adventure. This is not something that has really been done before. Not to toot our own horns too much, but I'm excited for a season of telling college rugby's best stories. Because I think the game is at a tipping point here, and we're in a good spot to kind of move it forward another couple yards. The couple meters down the pitch here.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's a big season ahead of us here on the College Rugby Show. We have a lot to talk about all year. Here's the plan. We're going to be coming to you bi-weekly, once every other week here in this video podcast form. And then next week, it's hard to believe I'm saying this right now, Zach has to double-check that he doesn't have 2 flights booked on the same day. I think he was a little surprised we're talking about it in
disbelief.
Pre-recording. But we are going to be coming to you live for our first ever 15s version of what we did in Maryland last year at the CRC for the Friday Night Rugby opener here next Friday, September 12th. Notre Dame, Texas A&M, the Aggies at the Fighting Irish the night before their football teams play. It's going to be a phenomenal event, a phenomenal night there in South Bend, Indiana, and we will all be there live on the ground, and I am super pumped about that as well. The first time we've ever done it for a 15s match. We've done it for 7s. This one's going to be super fun. And in Notre Dame, right? Touchdown Jesus is going to be over there. I remember coaching against the Fighting Irish, and the freaking famous marching band was practicing while we were playing the game. So this is going to be one of the best, most hallowed grounds, coolest cathedrals of college rugby, the Stinson Rugby Complex. So I'm super pumped to see this game up close and personal, and I can't wait to hear about all the different pumpkin spice latte ratings we get from Zach there in South Bend.
sponsor us. Know that we're coming there. Bring us some pumpkin spice lattes because we got a lot to talk about.
Guys, I know we were all poolside all summer, but that doesn't mean that our college rugby athletes were doing the same. Many of them were either in pool play, playing club ball in the 7 scene, but a bunch of them were also trotting the globe wearing NCR's college badge, either playing for the Griffins or for the All-Americans, as the high-performance program there run by Tom Clark at NCR seems to be growing by leaps and bounds every year. Let's just talk you through it real quick. The first group to go out of the country this summer were both the men's and women's Griffins. That's the newly minted all-star side for National Collegiate Rugby to play in the Algarve Sevens, a great international sevens tournament in Portugal. And the men went 6-0 and won their first ever outing ever. The women went 4-2. Their only losses to Kazakhstan, the national team, in pool play, and then into the championship game against a pro side from France. So really cool experience getting to go across the pond, play sevens in Portugal against pro teams, national teams, there on the beach. Darian, can you imagine a better way to spend your summer if you're a college rugby player?
No, I looked forward to the summers where I would go and play in beach tournaments and have a good time and get to experience that. And with the side that went over there, I mean, National Collegiate Rugby is really expanding, and the only way that U.S. is really going to become one of those international contenders is if we play international competition. The more people that get the opportunities to play, I mean, that's what's going to change the game. So with NCR kind of opening that door for a lot of athletes, I mean, it's only going to change the dynamic of the women's game, which is what I think that all of us are here for.
And to just zoom out a little bit, to just kind of take a look at the pathway from a 30,000-foot view, you have the Collegiate Rugby Championship where you got almost 2,500 athletes there and 144 teams from 8 different divisions, men and women, across the country. So that's like about as wide a net as you can cast for talent. You pick the best from that. You take them to Portugal, see how they do, and then if they do well, now they're in England, right? Like, so this is what a pathway is kind of supposed to look like with like meaningful, sensible stops along the way. So, you know, if you zoom out, it's kind of cool to see how it works. Well, let's zoom back in then here. The second All-American or high-performance venture of the summer was the first domestic test for the men's All-American program. Last year, they went overseas and had an undefeated tour in France. This time, they hosted Hinch, a very good side, age-appropriate side from Ireland, and it was an absolute barn burner, 13-10. Wyatt Perry and Aaron Juba, the 2 stars of the France tour a year ago, connected on another kick-pass connection for a try, and they pulled out a win and also a very testy match that had quite a few punch-ups. And they're at the New England Free Jacks right before the MLR Eastern Conference Final. So, again, you zoom out and you kind of see that pathway. Well, college best stars, they play in front of the MLR Conference Final. It made a lot of sense to me. It was a great match. Zach, what were your takeaways from that contest?
Well, like you said, just the pathway. I mean, talk about building a pathway to be able to have these players like be a part of an MLR event and for them to see like what that championship game then would be like right afterwards, you know, to be able to be a kind of a curtain raiser for what was a really then good Eastern Conference final. I mean, that's huge. And again, you know, you talked about it was a testy match. I think it was important for us to show, you know, we belong on the international stage. I think we're not going to bow down to anybody here. We're spunky American side. Darian loves it, I'm sure. So, you know, I'd love to see that fight and we come out on top of a gritty match. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I thought it was a great one. And then, you know, we turn over to RugbyTown, which was not even supposed to happen, right? RugbyTown, an international – let's set up the stage for RugbyTown. It is the premier domestic sevens competition, period, in the United States. Unfortunately, only for men, which is the bummer part. But it has been, like, for 15 years running, the top sevens competition, pulling professionals and internationals, like people that played for Fiji in the Olympics are playing in this tournament. And, you know, a couple weeks before it's supposed to start, a team pulls out from overseas, and they call NCR and say, hey, you want to put the Griffins in? And they only had one player carry over from that Griffins side that went undefeated in Portugal, and that was Everett Boyd, the speedster from Queens, who was the try scorer for them in Portugal. He's the only guy that carried over to the summer tournament. A completely new coaching staff. They pulled it all together in 2 weeks. And although they went 0-6 and winless, it's had some really good performances and some standout. You know, some of those guys really raised their hand. Like River Hansen, the Duke former football player. He's now been to multiple HP setups in the NCR rugby pathway, and he looks like he could be an Eagle prospect. And we got to see that a little bit in RugbyTown. Zach, I know you watched some of those matches. that's a big stage, right?
The biggest stage, like you said, that is like, one of the premier tournaments in the country. And I'd love to see that there were guys like River Hansen from Division III, some of the lower divisions as well, that got the call up here and were able to play. And, I think they put a good squad together. And these are guys that are now getting tutored by an Olympian, Courtney Melfi, who was part of that coaching staff for the, for NCR. And even if you don't win a single match, you acquit yourself well, and then you learn a thing or two that you take home to your squad for your 7 seasons. If you're River, you're Connor Mauulu, and you take that back to Miracosta, you're learning, you're growing, and you're bringing those skills back to your squad. Then for your next spring season, you might quit yourself well at CRCs.
Well, slight correction / breaking news. Connor Malauulu is a transfer to Southern Nazarene, so he'll be helping out Crimson Storm quite a bit there. A big addition there to Bethany, Oklahoma. So that's a big one for them. But yeah, he was another standout for the Griffins there in RugbyTown. Just a fantastic, if you want to be an Eagle, all the coaches are there. Half the Eagles are playing in the tournament. Just a fantastic opportunity. But the star of the summer, of the high-performance summer, by far, Darian, was the Women's All-American Tour to England, because not only did they go overseas, was it the first ever time that our NCR Women's All-Americans have gotten on the plane and crossed the ocean to play some rugby, but it was also during the Women's World Cup. And they got to be flag bearers, literally carry the American flag out for a Women's World Cup match. They got to go to those, and they got to meet the people that were once in their cleats and are now playing in the World Cup. Just what a cool experience, Darren. Tell us what you were thinking about and watching, as you're watching all that unfold.
The opportunity is there, I think, for women's rugby to really take the sport and be able to introduce it to America. And so for them to be at, what is going to be the foundation for what American rugby looks like. We talk about the Eagle pathway. Players that are on the side right now who are over there playing in England, they played in the college game. And so they really do give up those boots and then pass them on and really teach those players what this looks like and what it can look like and what you can create it. So those opportunities, they're the difference makers. And there are a lot of pioneers right now of the sport that are over there playing. So to be there, to have the flag, to be there on maybe your first national team tour, at least for us, it was the first one. Those experiences are so fun, and they're so important for the growth of women's rugby. How cool would it be for you guys to be sitting there and you're on your first national team tour and having a good time balling with the bros, and then you get to watch your home team and think to yourself, that could actually be me.
I couldn't have done it because I probably would have pulled a hammy doing the flag bearing, and we wouldn't even have made it to the games. I would have tripped and fallen and destroyed whatever national unity we had. So
you'd be the one who went viral. You'd be the Ilona Mar, but maybe not not how you expected.
Not in a good way. Yeah. Look, it's you talked about people that were literally, Erica Koulibaly was playing for the Iowa Hawkeyes 18 months ago.
Right.
She wasn't in this last CRC, but the one before that, right? And now she's already on the World Cup roster. Olivia Leatherman, another great one from Notre Dame College, who got onto the national team while still playing in college rugby. So the examples are a myriad. And really on the women's side, the difference between the national team, or the layer between the national team and college rugby, is way thinner than it even is on the men's side. You don't have these floods of international players that are trying to live here for 5 years playing professional rugby or to qualify from another nation that you on the women's side that you quite do on the men's side. If you look up and down the women's roster, you can see where they were developed. And it was, that college rugby team, that college rugby team, that college rugby team, right, Darian?
Right.
That's where these badass women come from that go represent us and tie Australia. The most exciting tie of all time.
This is our house. We came here to play. And you're right. I think that it's I love American women's rugby because it is so aggressive, and we're we deserve to be here. We're going to keep, representing. And I think bringing it back to really good, home core values. I know a lot of the women's players on the team have really gotten to, develop that personal relationship, and some of the college players coaching. And so, a lot of these girls that are out on the team right now, I know their attitude. I know that they're there to really put American rugby on the map. But they're also good humans. And so I'm happy that they get to go and have these amazing rewards for, I think, putting in a lot of work behind the scenes. And like you said, if we can start them in college, then you can start them in high school, then you can start them in middle school. And the quicker we can get young women and young men, right? I mean, just anybody who plays rugby with the ball in hand when they're young, think about how much of a superpower we would be, and we're just at the beginning. So how cool is that?
You talk a little bit about the I guess American game, the American mindset, and you kind of saw that in the results of that World Cup tour. I mean, that first match against the select side, they go down 2 scores immediately, and I'm watching the stream, and I'm like, this is very easy for this team that just flew across, the ocean. They didn't have camp before this tour. They didn't have time to gel as a unit. It would have been very easy for them to say, okay, we'll walk away from this and, we'll learn our lessons and have a cool experience in England, and that'll be that. But they did not give up, and they fought back, and they won that game. They beat Northeast Selects by 16 points eventually, and, that was, to me, the biggest testament for, the future of the game. And you saw that same fight in the national team then against Australia. That game was an epic battle, back and forth, and it was just that no quit, no surrender mindset. Even the second game for the All-Americans in that tour, they lost to a side that featured some players from the Women's Premier League. That was not there was no slouch that side they're playing, but they kept it within 13. Again, that's an even better one where you say, okay, we won our first one. I'm going to wash my hands of this. We could lose this game by 1,000. I don't care. I've been to England. I had a good time, and they showed up ready to play. And I respect every single one of the players on that roster and all the coaches that went out with them, Jamie Freck and the whole team for keeping them on track.
Yeah, and as long as we get close, we're getting closer and closer. And England, I mean, this is an England side, which, again, a lot of those girls have had rugby balls in their hands since they were really young, So they now showing that we're closing the gap there means so much, underneath it all. But I do think that one of the brands of American rugby is resilience, So it's going to be a resilient season for all of us. We have, a bunch of shows and things that we're doing, and now we get to hang out and talk some smack about rugby. So, I mean, how, you couldn't ask for anything better.
Look, I wasn't a math major at the Harvard of Missouri that I graduated from, the University of Central Missouri. But I believe we won by 16. We lost by 13. Aggregate score, we're up 3. And that's, so that's a win overall on that tour, that Women's World Cup tour. That is our high performance report from a very busy summer. Now it's time to look ahead a little bit to the fall, a very busy fall. And we're going to dive into the preseason rankings, the College Rugby Show's preseason rankings for all divisions. We took the lift for the preseason, right? I mean, the preseason rankings are more opinion than they are data mining, and boy, do we have opinions. So let's dive through the lists of them that we made, and starting with Women Division 1. As we mentioned earlier in the show, this division is brand new to NCR, and it's the top 7 teams. These are all school-funded, school-supported teams that by and large have paid coaching. They practice more than a couple of times a week. They have access to facilities, maybe access to scholarships or admissions help, and they're really, really good programs. So we've got Wheeling Cardinals coming in at number 1, our defending Division 1 national champions, undefeated. Their first year's of program last year. Hard to do anything but put them there. Number 2, BYU, Brigham Young University. Cougars a fantastic program. New to NCR, new to this competition, this new division. They're really good. A bit of a question mark out west. We'll see what they have when they stack up here. Penn State coming in at number 3. Of course, we had a huge result over the weekend. Wheeling, number 1, beating Penn State, number 3, 87-0. We have the Nittany Lions ranked a little bit too high. We'll talk about that. Southern Nazarene coming in at number 4. They were number 2 last year, the runners-up at Nationals, but it was a bit of a lopsided final. So that's why you see the Cougars and the Nittany Lions sneak in above them. And then we've got St. Bonaventure followed by Walsh and Aquinas. St. Bonnie's and Walsh played a close game last year, super tight score line. That could be either way. Guys, those 7 teams are the entirety of Women's Division 1. This is a lean and mean conference, no fat whatsoever. Darian, what are your thoughts?
A lot of feels. I mean, what What a way to start off this season, right? There's something really special, I think, about talking about the difference between our two brackets. And coaches had a lot to say about it. But the D1, I'm really excited for Penn State to enter into the competition. We talked about World Cup athletes. You know, you've got Hope Rogers, Gabby Cantorna, Tess Fury, Rachel Ericke, all of them big names from Penn State that really have a legacy on them. 12 national championships alone to that program. And they've also got head coach Lauren Schisler, and she was a part of that side as well that was able to kind of get those multiple national championships in a row. She's got some serious knowledge. But I mean, it is a statement that Wheeling came out, you know, ready to go, ready to rumble, 87-0. I mean, that's a win.
My eyes, like, it's a, you know, an expression, but my eyes literally went wide, and I think my jaw hit the floor when I saw that number. I mean, it's an opening game of the season. I think there's a lot, and I also will say I think it says a little bit more about Wheeling than it does about Penn State. I think Wheeling is hungry and they are ready to go for round two here. It was all the names you're familiar with from last season: Bella Galata, Tamsin Boyce, Alexis Dallas, obviously getting on the board. I think it was just, you know, we're here still and we're ready to go. But there was a welcome to the NCR moment for Penn State, I think. I'm curious what you guys think about it too. Like, Penn State, historic program. A lot of history there. How do they recapture that? I think going forward, I want to see Penn State be what they once were, and I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that.
One of the longtime blue blood programs, without question. Probably the blue blood program of the women's game, if you look at longevity of success. But, you know, every blue blood program has its down times in every sport, right? And you could give a million examples. And this right now for Coach Schisler and this ever-changing landscape, you know, let's look at these two teams. Wheeling has scholarships. Penn State does not give out scholarships. Penn State has an immense amount of resources, much more than your average college rugby program. But they're one of the only teams in this new Division I who's not offering academic aid to get into their institution. So that's one of the major differences. You know, Wheeling is young, but they're a juggernaut. And I think they put the bullet that they are the mark. Now, these two teams played last fall, and it was a much closer game. It was like a 3-score game versus this, you know, a 30-score game. You know, it's way different. But that says to me, maybe this was an anomaly. Maybe Wheeling just had a couple of preseason weeks. Maybe they had a couple of, you know, they played this game later in the season, which is an entire likelihood that they'll see each other in the postseason, that it will be a different contest. But, man, you cannot ignore 87 points, and you cannot ignore 0. So Wheeling, odds-on favorite, feeling pretty smart now that it was a hard one this time to pick them number 1.
Wheeling's coming for blood, that's for sure. I mean, they're taking names, 87-0. I mean, that's just, I mean, you don't have to question it. Like, Wheeling, I'm sorry, is the answer here. So they just, I mean, 87-0.
Absolutely. Let's move over to men's Division I, where we have maybe a little bit more parity. You know, it's been Brown and St. Bonaventure kind of punching and counter-punching the last couple of years. Wheeling getting close, got to their first semifinal last year. So, you know, our top 4, Brown, Queens, St. Bonaventure, Wheeling, at least 2 of those, and Bonnie's and Wheeling are going to have pretty brand new playmakers coming over from Iowa Central, transferring. So there's a big storyline. Cohen Webb probably going to go be a fly half for St. Bonaventure, I would imagine. He's factoring into that starting 15 somewhere, and Taku Musanguini going over to Iowa Central. These guys were like one of the best dynamic duos in the country last year, and now they're split up, and they're playing against each other in the same conference. Oh, by the way, we talked about Women's Division I's brand new. You know what else is brand new? The Atlantic Rugby Conference, right? So the Rugby East is split off, and now we have teams this is a fully funded, almost fully varsity programs thing as well, where we're separating that and letting the top of the top play each other week in and week out in the Atlantic Rugby Conference. So a million things on the Men's Division I side to talk about. Zach, what sticks out to you?
Well, I like those 2 teams you mentioned there. I think the ICCC transfers at St. Bonaventure, Wheeling are going to be make a big impact on their respective squads. But so far this season, very early on, have been really looking at Queens coming in at number 2. I really like their preseason so far. I think they, have tested themselves pretty well early on, which is an interesting choice to me, to take on a really hungry, really good D1AA side in Kentucky that's coming off like back-to-back national championships, very dominant side, and beat them 47-13. I mean, that's scary for a number 2 ranked team in D1 to take on a team that's pretty comparable. in skill in some ways. So I'm looking for them. They have a game against Navy this weekend on Saturday, which I think is going to be very telling for how their season is going to go. So I'm looking forward to that result coming in. That game's on September 6th. Should tell us a little bit more about them. But they have a lot of really solid guys in that squad. Rowan Shawver, the captain this year, had 2 tries against Kentucky. I think he's going to, make a huge impact. He's a big guy. He's going to bully his way across that try line for a lot more scores this season. And I like that early, aggressive, tough scheduling where it's not so much, it's still a bit of a tune-up game, but it's a really competitive tune-up game, and you're learning a lot about yourself in those moments as well. So I think this might be the year for Queens to really put it all together.
Yeah, Queens is knocking on the door every year. Obviously, lost last year in the national championship. They are a program, and they're under a new head coach, right? Tyree Reed has been an assistant, and now he's taking over as the head coach. That's a new dynamic. I mean, he's not new to the program, but is definitely a change. So a lot to look forward to there at Queens. And man, Everett Boyd is fun to watch, and he has gotten a lot of great high-level experience under him. And the Royals are going to be one to look out for, and them and Belmont Abbey. In the same conference, right across the street from each other there in Charlotte. Like, that is, to me, one of the most budding, coolest rivalries to watch. They're like less than 15 minutes from each other, and they're definitely recruiting out of the same pools. And now they're, in the Atlantic Rugby Conference, which is arguably, the best conference in all of college rugby. As you look through this, you go, Queens Atlantic Rugby Conference, St. Bonaventure Atlantic Rugby Conference, Wheeling, Walsh. So 4 of the top 5 coming from that same conference. And, of course, we should probably spend a little bit of time on the Brown Bears, right? Brown, under head coach Dave LaFlamme, they've won a couple of national championships in recent years, stacked with talent. Marco LaPierre was fantastic for them. He's coming back. They've got talent all over the field. They do lose a few players, and Raph Lonseigneur. But, man, they got Leo Clayberg back. They have Tito Ijua back. Brown is really good, and I'm just now remembering that scrum, it probably is still amazing. Dartmouth, they were the kings of the Ivy League for decades until Brown started to usurp them in the last couple of years. They're not sitting there resting on their laurels. They've gone out. They've done some recruiting. I know they've got some serious talent that they expect to slot in at fly half who can play with anybody. So it's going to be a little bit of an ask for them to win the Liberty Conference and usurp Brown, but there's somebody you certainly have to watch out for. And Marion is a team that's been quietly cooking now for a handful of years under Coach John Harley there in Indianapolis. He started to stack some talent together, retain some talent, done a good job of that. Got Tommaso Lorenzetti back, Clay Peters, the Skullet. The powers of the Skullet are coming back. So I think Marion's going to be fantastic. They are another team that's also played Kentucky in the preseason. They're challenging themselves left, right, and center, getting as many high-level games as they can. So men's Division I, stacked with talent. Can't wait to see. I think it's one of the more competitive divisions in all of college rugby. Let's move to women's D1 AA. Look, what I love about women's Division I AA is that it's wide open, right? Like, Wheeling won the consolidated Division I last year. They're in a new competition. The last team that's in this new D1 AA that had won a national championship, that's Michigan. And they're in a little bit of rebuilding year. That's what the head coach says. I choose to believe her about 50%. I'm sure they're going to be really competitive, but they're probably not that dominant team in the Big Ten that they have been. So, who's going to take that place? Is it going to be Northeastern, who has a pair of All-Americans back in Molly McAlevey and Courtney Bichot-Dunner, and co-captains Kyra Grimes and Alex Peterson all back? I think they only lost one starter from last year. Is it going to be Virginia, who comes into the season number 1 with Kate Delaney and Taylor Reith back? Taylor Reith absolutely wreaking havoc, running through most teams' packs. And they've got center Milena King back. She's fantastic. Those are the 2 top dogs, 1 and 2. But Northern Iowa, it's hard to argue that anybody would have a better player coming back than Morgan Link for them in the midfield. And she's going to be joined by a very exciting first-year local talent from Cedar Falls High School, state champion wrestler in the state of Iowa, state champion rugby player. Like, Northern Iowa looks fantastic. This up and down, right, from Purdue, Colorado, Iowa. I have no clue who's going to win this thing. It's going to be very competitive, and to me, that's the most exciting part about this. You got resourced programs going head-to-head. This is the best of women's collegiate club rugby, and I have no idea who's going to win this thing.
Speaking of, Pat, I think you look at the number 10 team on this ranking, Notre Dame, to me, criminally underrated. Whoever made this ranking should be in prison, Pat. I think Notre Dame is unbelievable. They had Isabel Henderson and Mia Blocker both playing in England this summer and scoring tries against the select side. Mia Blocker also in Portugal earlier this summer. She had a little bit taste of both. 7s and 15s, acquitted herself very well. I think they're going to be a very tough out for anybody who plays them, but you're absolutely right. It's anybody's game here in D1AA, and I love that, to see that kind of spread that around and spread the wealth and let other programs get a taste of those trips to Houston and those big time under the lights matchups across the board.
We've also got a third All-American there, or another All-American there from Notre Dame, and Megan Tremblay, who's going to be back as well. They had their big rookie recruiting day, which is where they set up the table and all the players go out there and try to recruit as many rookies as they had. That's where Isabel Henderson came to the game of rugby 1 year ago today. So that's how crazy women's Division I AA college rugby is like, whoever the next All-American juggernaut could just have been walking up to the recruiting table today. So that's what I love about this division. That is the true heart of college collegiate rugby. So if your roster is fed by a recruiting table with an apron on it and people attracting people to it, this is the division for you. And man, is it super competitive. And I can't wait to see how it breaks out. Men's D1AA, a little bit more of a known commodity. We've got two-time national champions Kentucky, the Wildcats, looking for that three-peat. They look like a juggernaut to do it. They've graduated some people like Jack Phillips, their two-time All-American fly half. He's going to be hard to replace. They've graduated some other fantastic players like Mike Punzelin, the number 8, Jared Munier, the big prop that was one of the fan favorites every time he would play. But they have stocked the cupboard with more talent than you can shake a stick at. They still got Gage Curry, Holden Hahn in the back row, Joe Keogh, an All-American. I mean, Kentucky is the team to beat, the number 1 team in men's division AA, 1AA with a bullet. Why? Because they smoked Bowling Green by a basketball margin in the national championship last year, and Bowling Green's coming in at number 2. Now, Bowling Green also returns practically everybody, but that's why Kentucky is there, just like that's why Wheeling women are where they are in women's Division I. Zach, what do you think the likelihood is that we could have a new champion in this division?
Well, Pat, you talk about the known quantity here. I'm not going to bet against Kentucky. I think Kentucky is very good. I think they have
bad idea.
I don't want to go on my first show and go on record betting against Kentucky here in D1AA. Maybe later in the season. That's my role later on. But right now I'm going to stay with Kentucky. But you have a couple unknown quantities. I think with the addition of the Lone Star Conference, you talked about it earlier. You have Sam Houston, who played a very good bowl game last year in Houston, and they looked very good. You have a legendary coach in Tui Osborne taking over that program for the Aggies, who I on a previous show playing the role of the villain once said that Texas A&M played in the kiddie pool when they were playing in some of the CRAA championships. I made a few enemies in Texas, which you never want to do. But I think they have a very good shot at maybe competing for that crown. Kentucky is the undisputed champ right now, but these are unknown quantities. These are the chemical X in the soup this year that you should look out for that may be able to jump up the rankings.
Without question. I mean, Sam Houston to me is definitely the number 1. Like, what are you? You're the biggest dark horse. We don't know what to expect. They've won the last 3 Lone Star Bowls, right? So this is a team that we know can play good rugby. When they were in the CRC a few years ago, they did very well there, right? So I think the Sam Houston State Bearcats are a dark horse, but not that dark, right? Everybody in the country should be having their eyes looking out for them. Same thing with the Clemson Tigers, right? They were 1 point away from Kentucky. Nobody gave Kentucky a closer game last year than Clemson. They let them off the hook, had a chance to score with the ball on the goal line at the end of the game. So, while Kentucky, and I was the one hyping them up earlier as the odds-on favorite, to me, that's the one Achilles heel. What happened to that Clemson game in the SCRC final last year? And can Clemson bottle that magic again? And have they found a blueprint to beat a team like Kentucky? I don't know. I think this one is a little bit more wide open, but a fun one to look at. Let's bump on down now to Women's Division II, where we've got our top 10 out here. And Vassar, no surprise, is sitting atop the list at number 1, followed by Coast Guard at number 2. I guess if there's only a surprise for me, it's Eau Claire down at number 4. The Blue Golds are going to use that as bulletin board material. Zach, break these down for me. Tell me what everybody should be looking at in Women's Division II.
I am a little scared of that UX pick. The Blue Golds might come for me here this year with that ranking. But I think they had they're always competitive. They had a great last season in 2024, coming in second there, falling to Vassar, who I have to say have been on a legendary run in Division II and are the team to beat still. Tony Brown in his 30th year at the helm there, 28 winning seasons, I believe, out of 29 with that program. So that's pretty impressive in itself. But you look at the Blue Golds, and they have a lot of turnover this year. They've lost a lot of talent off that squad. You're looking at somebody like Heidi Schmelzer, whose second row is gone. You're looking, you're losing other players like Chloe Chamberlain, also gone. Saris Ridd, who was over in England playing with the All-Americans, not going to be playing for Wisconsin next season. So that's a tough. Those are tough shoes to fill for Eau Claire going forward. And you look at the teams that are surpassing them in the rankings. Vassar brings back 3 All-Americans for their team this year and for their senior seasons. That's a hell of a core. You have the 3 leading scorers from the national championship rounds last season who are going to be back there for Vassar. That's Sophia Bailey, a scrum half. You have Sabine Weil at fly half. And then you also have Jude Robinson in the back 3. That's a strong core for Vassar. Coast Guard, you watched Kate Boggs run all over everybody at the CRCs last year on the Bears' way to a national championship in sevens. She's back captaining that side at Coast Guard. They have a lot of talent coming back as well. So it's just, for me, why I made that choice is because the Blue Golds have a lot of turnover, and that to me is an unknown. I'm sure there are, plenty of talented players waiting in the wings to step up and fill that void. But I for now I have to see it on the field before I can rank them any higher.
Well, you're not going to have to wait long because Eau Claire is playing an interdivisional huge matchup against Northern Iowa. They're in the first women's Friday night rugby matchup of the season on September 19th. So you're not going to wait long, sir, to see who's filling those shoes for the Blue Golds and what Coach Derek Wagner has in store for you this season.
Yeah, I can't wait to be proven wrong immediately on the year. That's great for the confidence going into the season.
All right, moving over to men's Division II. Montana State comes in as number 1, usurping IUP, who I know has graduated a ton of players. This always one of the most competitive divisions in all of college rugby every year. Tell us what to look at here, Zach.
This is another one that I'm probably going to end up paying for, but I had to do it. Seth Irwin and I worked closely with him when I was Division III commissioner for the D3 sides in the ARU. He always fields a talented team at IUP. They recruit very well. He gets them in line. They play. Watching them in the national championship last year was incredible. Some of those matches were some of the best rugby matches I think I'll ever see in my life. That Norwich match in the rain was a slugfest. It was unbelievable, and they definitely deserved all the accolades last season. But again, same thing with Eau Claire on the women's side. There's a lot of turnover there. You lose somebody like Dom Holmes, who's like an all-world player who put the team on his back in those moments last year. Those are tough shoes to fill for IUP. So I just think it's time for Montana State and some of those teams out west to kind of close that gap. Montana State lose some players as well. You lose Finn Russell, not that Finn Russell, but different Finn Russell, who also was very good. Is not going to be playing for and excuse me, it's the Bobcats. I have to apologize. I did refer to them as the Wildcats in the write-up, but that is not who they are. The Bobcats. We're missing Finn Russell. But they're also, they're bringing back a lot of good players like June and Ethan Carlson, who will help fill that role. You have a lot of other talented teams in the West as well. Newcomers, Boise State, who are going to make some noise. I think Colorado Mesa, fan favorites at the CRCs this spring, are going to be looked to make a difference as well in those rankings. So, there's a lot of really good teams. Norwich always in the mix as well. They might be looking for some blood as well. Finally get over the hump if the IUP is wounded at this point. But like I said, you can't count out IUP. Santino Fischio is back from that team. He was very good for the Crimson Hawks. There's a lot of other great players. Malcolm Johnson is going to fill in for Dom Holmes. Malcolm Johnson set the single season try record in the spring last year for that program. So he's obviously a talented player. There's a lot of good talent. You and I, we have to mention the second place team, I think, from last year as well. They're going to look to come back. They lose a few All-Americans as well. but they have young players like Ian Kresge and Jake Stack who are going to come and pick up that block and keep chopping for you and I. So another division I think is anybody's game here, but I don't think it's the year for IUP. And I'm sorry, Seth, I have to say it, but that might not be your time.
Put him on the record. IUP, he switched up on you.
Yeah.
All good things come to an end. And, in college rugby, it happens so often because of the recycling of players, obviously. Let's move on down to Women's Division III, where Endicott comes in at number 1. And one player they are going to have to be without is 4-time All-American Tess Merrill, who graduates. She is, the goals in Carly Baker have built quite the dynasty there, but they haven't won one without Tess. They're not going to have to do it without her, but the fact that they're doing it without her hasn't stopped them from being ranked number 1 in the country. Colorado School of Mines, they were another juggernaut last year that kind of came a little bit out of nowhere and were fantastic, and I know they've got some really big talent coming back. Zach, what are you keeping your eye on in Women's D3?
Well, you talk about, recruiting at the table with the tablecloth over it. Carly Baker pulled Tess Merrill as a freshman, never played rugby before, onto that program. She became, one of the greatest Division III players, I think, to play the game. And so they're definitely going to miss Merrill out there. But they have, Carly Baker is very good at doing that, and she's built a very strong program. Other All-Americans that are willing, they're going to take that place. Chloe Marconi, chief among them. But you mentioned Mines. I think Mines pushed Endicott towards the end of that season. That was not a runaway victory for Endicott either. I mean, that final match, 22-15, Mesa on the board, School of Mines on the board first, and they're bringing everybody back from last year, a pair of All-Americans in Aaliyah Lynn and Mackenzie Williams, who are going to be leading that charge. And then you have young phenom Piper Lee, an All-American as a first-year. Speed on the wing, scored a lot of points across postseason play last year. Is going to look to do it again for the Ore Diggers. They have other teams as well. University of Wisconsin-Platteville is always a contender, always in the top 4. They lose 2 All-American forwards in Emma Callahan and Salita Bodadine, but they have plenty of young players as well. Taylor Brink, Violet Lawrence, McKenna Dutton, Jordan Cammons are going to try and fill that gap as well. East Stroudsburg had their best year as a program, I think, in 2024. They were led by All-American Julia Nilsson, who's back for 2025. They're going to look to build on that momentum and see if they can make a deeper run in the postseason here as well. Keep an eye also on Wayne State here, I believe, in their third year under Coach Brent Shivers. They're going to be looking good. They have a very young team that has been slowly gaining experience and growing, and they're led, of course, by All-American Mary Mikulski, who's back. Fly half Shea Wiederin is scored every game in the 7th season this spring, averaging 10.6 points a game. That's pretty wild. So a lot of talent there as well. Mallory Swenson, the flanker, is looking good, a hard hitter there. So there are plenty of teams, I think, that are going to vie for this crown. But until, again, I see Endicott stumble, I think it's theirs to lose.
Yeah, look, there's some teams who feel like they have a shot this year because big number 15 is no longer trolling that backfield for them, and I don't blame them. I also Niagara looks like a good team to me under head coach Dave Chapman. They've got a very ambitious schedule. They're playing Vassar. They're playing St. Bonaventure. They're playing Walsh. So they're playing championship caliber teams in Division II in Vassar, and they're playing Division I teams in St. Bonaventure and Walsh. So, if that goes well, look for the Purple Eagles to maybe be in the mix in this thing later on in the season. So, it's always anybody's guess. Let's bump over here now to Men's Division III. This is your realm, Zach. This is the bridge under which you troll the most. We got a new number 1 here, obviously. His Wayne State is out of the picture. They have moved on to Division I AA, and we will have a new champion here. Tell us what to look at in Men's D3.
Darian, do you think Pat's being extra mean to me today? Have you
noticed that? But is he wrong? You do a
Is that a bad?
job.
Is a troll? Is that
and
a?
You're the funny guy. The funny. I'm not going to say it because that sounds like it might have hurt your feelings a little bit. But you are the D3 man.
Maybe I'm just too. I'm probably just too sensitive. You're right. That's on me. It's just early in the year. I know we got to establish the power structure here, but you're right. Just that they do at D3, establish that new power structure here because there are a lot of turnover. A lot of teams have moved on from Division III, including the champs last year, Wayne State. That leaves space for Rock Rugby, Slippery Rock, coming in here. To me, the unquestioned number one. They have been looking for their moment. They have been slowly building under Coach Matt Heasley for many years now. After they kind of had a surprising burst onto the scene at the CRCs 2 years ago as a lower seed, they made it all the way to the finals, I think, and they look very good, and they return their entire core of All-Americans from last year's team that lost to Wayne State at regionals. So that they were very close to making a play there. But they are back. Aiden O'Shea is coming back for them. Zach Harrington, another Zach. It's always good to have a Zach on your team. A lot of good, solid players there for Slippery Rock. Mentioned it before, River Hansen gaining a lot of experience these last few years, a meteoric rise in the sport. They're always going to be good, so look to Duke. They slugged it out in the regionals last year against Catholic and beat them. Catholic, I think, is also going to be good again this year. John Solomon's side, always good at Catholic. Now, you also got to keep an eye on School of Mines. Again, in men's D3 here, they made it very far last year. They beat a lot of really good teams on the way. They beat Miracosta. They beat New Mexico Tech. They beat Cal Poly Humboldt. So they are no slouch. They had a really tough road to the playoffs last year, and they are returning Max Cisneros at the number 9 spot, and they should be good again this year. But also you have to look out, too, coming out of the West, Wisconsin Eau Claire, the Blue Golds here. I'll make it up for the women's side. I'll rank them pretty high. I think they have a good shot. They're coming off that Sevens national championship last season, and they have Luke Pugh coming back, Cal Schmitz. I have to also shout out Holy Cross at number 10. My guys, my people. They were so close last year, the second place team, but they lost some talent as well. And Jackson Everett, that's a huge hole to fill at fly half. But who knows? Maybe this is bulletin board material for them. Maybe they'll use it to come back here and make a run at this thing.
And even though teams have lost some talent, we're really sad to see them go. But one of my favorite things about club rugby is seeing the new one that they just found, sitting in the courtyard or out and about, that you just recruited on a whim, who ended up really taking it and running with it. A lot of rugby players now just kind of tell that story. So I'm excited to see the new talent that comes in for these college club sides. Who's going to be the best recruit of the year?
Right, we don't know until they play those games. So until you see that team sheet on day one and an Instagram whatever post, and you could say, "Oh, who's that?" And then they have 3 tries week 1, and they're off to the races.
Okay, what's your name?
Who's going to be Isabel Henderson this year? Who's going to be River Hansen this year? Those are the questions we have to find out. You know who it may be? It may be Joe Bob Molesky of the Franciscan Barons. Since you left him off the list, you might have lit a little fire under him.
That's what I'm here for, is to light fires. I just want to upset as many people.
We're not here to hype you up. We're the villains in your story if we need to be,
Look what it did for Wheeling. Look at that. Okay,
I almost got
Pat,
fought
you
by
did
Queens.
that. Where's my ring? Where's my ring, Coach Pape? I need that. All right, let's add it to the list. All right, guys, look, we've talked it to death, college rugby this week. The games are finally getting underway. We're going to have real results, more and more each week, building to talk about. And next week, you're going to see our pretty faces live from South Bend for the Friday Night Rugby season opener, as the Texas A&M Aggies, a D1 AA title contender potentially, travel to Notre Dame, a top 10 D1 team that's looking to go further than they ever have before and are stacking talent there in South Bend. We're going to give you the behind-the-scenes look. We're definitely going to give you touchdown Jesus. Will Zach make the team? I don't know. Is Zach good enough to play rugby at Notre Dame?
Will he get a pumpkin spice latte? Is really our question in all of this. Along
Who's got the best
with
PSLs in all of northern Indiana? We will bring those answers to you and much, much more this season on the College Rugby Show. For Zach, for Darian, I'm your host, Pat Clifton. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next week for the live show from South Bend and all season long for Friday Night Rugby.